The morning sun was already high when the weight of the world pressed down on Marcus Hale's shoulders, the kind of weight that never lifted no matter how bright the day became. His shoes were worn thin, his truck coughed more than it roared, and the folded court notice in his pocket felt heavier than any stone. That paper carried a date that could decide whether his little girl would sleep under the same roof as him or become another memory he was powerless to protect. Fate was already tightening its grip, even before he noticed the woman standing alone on the side of the road, stranded and unseen, waiting for a kindness that might change everything. Before the story goes further, if you believe that small acts of kindness can create second chances and change lives in ways we never expect, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Journal. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Marcus Hale was 36 years old, a single father with permanently tired eyes and hands roughened by years of honest labor. He lived on the edge of a quiet town where daylight revealed peeling paint on modest houses and people who smiled even while carrying silent struggles. His daughter, Isla, was 7, all sharp curiosity and soft laughter, with hair that caught the sun like copper threads. She was the reason Marcus woke before dawn every day, the reason he kept going even when the numbers never added up and the future looked like a locked door with no key. That morning, he had dropped Isla at school with a forced smile, promising he would pick her up later, though he had no idea what the rest of the day would bring. The court notice in his pocket concerned a custody review he could not afford to lose. After Isla's mother passed away 3 years earlier, life had collapsed into a blur of grief, bills, and exhaustion. One missed deadline during that painful year had been enough for distant relatives to question Marcus's ability to provide stability. Now, a judge would decide whether Isla stayed with him or was placed elsewhere, somewhere that might have better resources but none of the love Marcus carried like oxygen. Every mile he drove toward the construction site where he worked felt like borrowed time. The road curved through open fields under a clear daytime sky when Marcus saw the stalled car ahead. It was pulled awkwardly onto the shoulder, hazard lights blinking in quiet desperation. He almost drove past. His fuel gauge hovered near empty, his boss had warned him about being late, and the court date replayed in his mind like a drumbeat. But then he noticed the woman standing beside the car, shielding her eyes from the sun, her posture stiff with stress. Something about the way she stood, alone and clearly overwhelmed, reminded him of himself on too many mornings. Marcus slowed, then stopped. He told himself it was just a few minutes, that helping didn't cost much when you already had nothing left to lose. He stepped out of his truck, the heat already pressing against his skin, and approached her with cautious kindness. The woman looked to be in her early 50s, her hair pulled back neatly despite the situation, her clothes simple but carefully chosen. She looked out of place on that quiet rural road, like someone accustomed to order suddenly dropped into uncertainty. The car had overheated, and her phone had no signal. Marcus checked the engine, fetched water from his own bottle, and waited with her as the metal cooled under the sun. He offered what little he had without hesitation, even when she apologized repeatedly for the inconvenience. He reassured her with the calm patience of someone who had learned long ago that panic never fixed anything. When the engine refused to cooperate, he offered her a ride into town, knowing it meant he would be late for work and likely lose a day's pay he desperately needed. As they drove, the town unfolding slowly in daylight around them, the woman observed Marcus quietly. She noticed the child's drawing taped to his cracked dashboard, a small stick-figure family under a bright sun, labeled in uneven letters. She noticed how he spoke about his daughter with unfiltered pride, how his voice softened when he mentioned her love for library books and her habit of asking questions about everything. Marcus spoke without expectation, not knowing that his words were painting a portrait of his life to someone who would soon weigh it in a courtroom. He dropped her near the courthouse building, apologizing again for not being able to do more. She thanked him sincerely, her eyes lingering with an intensity that made him uncomfortable, as if she were trying to memorize him. Marcus drove away quickly, the reality of his lateness crashing down. By the time he reached the construction site, the foreman shook his head. Marcus was sent home for the day, unpaid. He sat in his truck afterward, staring at his hands, wondering how many more blows he could take before something broke. The custody hearing loomed closer with every passing hour. Marcus spent the afternoon fixing a loose step at home, preparing dinner early, and helping Isla with her homework as sunlight streamed through the small living room window. He smiled and laughed with her, hiding the storm inside. That night, after Isla fell asleep, Marcus sat at the kitchen table, the court notice finally unfolded. He whispered a promise to the empty room that he would do anything to keep his daughter safe. The day of the hearing arrived bright and unforgiving. The courthouse stood tall and quiet, sunlight reflecting off its stone facade. Marcus wore his only decent shirt, freshly ironed but fraying at the cuffs. He held Isla's small hand, feeling her squeeze his fingers as if she sensed the gravity of the moment. Inside, the